Okay, let's start. Welcome everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. Today I will discuss actually two research publications we just did as IMA. I will discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the finance function. I think that's really interesting, especially that we are, and we all hope, at the end of this whole situation almost. But I will also discuss more on megatrends we are actually predicting for the upcoming year for 2021, because both are of course also combined with each other or related to each other. Before I start, my name is Len Mulder and I'm the Senior Director Europe Operations for IMA, and that's the Institute of Management Accountants. And I'm based here in Amsterdam. First, a little bit about IMA. Just a brief introduction about IMA. We are one of the largest and most respected associations focused exclusively on advancing the management accounting profession. And we are proud to support our members and the profession for research, the CMA, Certified Management Accountant Program, continuing education, networking, and advocacy of the highest ethical business practices. And our members are located all over the world and are supported really out of the offices that you see on this map. And in Europe, we have two offices, one in Amsterdam and the other one is in Zurich. And also in Romania, we are very active. Of course, we have the partnership with ABSL, which we are very proud of. But we also have a partnership with the University of Bucharest. And we also have training partners that offer the CMA, the Certified Management Accountant Program in Bucharest, to help companies train their people for the future of finance. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can always use the Q&A section to ask your questions. Please don't use the chat because that's something we cannot always see, but use the Q&A section for that. So what we have seen with the whole situation, that it's really challenging organizations worldwide, forcing them to rethink their business models as they struggle for survival. As companies look to reconfigure their business, the finance organizations can play a key role in helping them stabilize operations and strategize for the future. But how is the pandemic affecting their finance function? So to find out, we as IMA conducted a survey of the impact of the whole pandemic on the finance function of companies around the world, which provides the basis for this report. And to provide context, we start with the impact on organizations as a whole, looking at the impact on their revenues at staffing levels. And then focusing on their finance function, and we look at the impact on priorities of the finance function and its staff. And finally, we will look at the areas in which finance professionals are looking to upskill and issues related to reskilling. So we recently also released a report which spotlights some of the major trends anticipated for the finance and accounting profession this year in 2021. And the report includes 6 megatrends, which are factors that will shift the focus and dynamics of the profession. And many of you are preparing to embark on your career journey as young professionals, senior finance professionals, and so on. You will be impacted by these trends, so it's important that you are aware of these changes that will be, or you're already in the process of occurring. And I will explain each of the megatrends and will also provide you with key takeaway for each of them. And by that, I mean, I will explain to you what it means for you as you start your professional career or are already further in your career. Many of these trends that I'm going to speak about are ones that we have been hearing about for quite a while already, but are likely to grow in importance this year as organizations, because we have to deal with the ongoing pandemic situation, we face challenges in implementing technology, and we have to respond to demands for a diverse workforce and manage threats posed by climate change, for example. So what are those 6 megatrends? Well, the first megatrend is focusing on the physical workplace itself. Over the past year, we have seen remote work take hold as a way to manage business during the whole pandemic. Work from home has become accepted, and there is a realization that employees can still be very productive when working remotely. But we also have environmental, social and governance, or ESG reporting, has grown in popularity as more companies try to demonstrate how they are responding to climate change and social issues in response to investor demands for greater accountability. ESG issues must be effectively managed or they could have a negative impact on a company's performance and reputation. Accounting and finance professionals are being held accountable for enterprise risk management, or ERM. The objective of enterprise risk management is to create a top-down or enterprise view of all the significant risks that might impact the strategic objectives of the business. A company can't necessarily predict a specific disaster like we have now, but it can be building business continuity, disaster recovery plans, and developing remote work policies. So for your staff, it's really important that they learn about enterprise risk management again, even if it isn't something that falls within your scope of work. And then we have diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is becoming more of a competitive differentiator in addition to being the right thing to do. And with the growth of other movements last year, organizations are seeing a greater need to increase their diversity efforts. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical differentiators for organizations, and companies that embrace diversity benefit in many ways, including automation, for example, will accelerate. And when you hear automation, you probably think of robots, and robots have been used in manufacturing for decades already, and they are now being used in the accounting and finance world. The reality is that there aren't necessarily physical robots, but they are tools to automate certain tasks in the finance function. And while the task being automated used to be primarily repetitive tasks, we are now seeing bots being programmed with artificial intelligence and machine learning, so that they can complete the quarterly forecast, for example, better than a whole team of degreed and credentialed professionals. And you can expect that automation journey to continue. Companies and their CFOs continue to invest in the future, build their talent pipeline, and invest in technology. So actually, my takeaway for the technology part is that you really have to seek out ways to learn more about technology tools. Take courses, listen to webinars, read articles, and become comfortable with automation. And then the sixth and final megatrend we are seeing is about knowledge and skills. There will be a greater demand for upskilling and continuing education for professionals, and technology is moving so quickly that it could cause a reduction of jobs at the lower end. As more jobs become automated, transaction processing or routine repetitive types of jobs will get replaced by higher value added analytical types of jobs. So for this trend, and maybe that's actually the most important one because it's related to all the other 5 trends, don't view technology and the changes that accompany it as threats. Rather see these things as opportunities to grow your knowledge and skills and to add value to your organization. Adopt a growth learning mindset and commit to being a lifelong learner, and focus on professional development at all stages of your career. Invest in yourself and your staff and your career by making a commitment to your professional development. So what is the impact on staffing? So the news is full of stories of how organizations of all sizes are now struggling to survive. And large companies in strategic industries such as airlines are pleading for government assistance, while small businesses such as restaurants and gyms, often without financial resources of larger companies, also struggle to survive. Our survey results and reflects an across-the-board decline in revenue, with very large companies, those with more than 10 billion in revenue, most likely to have experienced a considerable decline in revenue. And now I will go to the impact of staffing. The survey we did confirms what has been widely reported in the news. The pandemic has severely impacted employment around the world. Approximately half of the companies surveyed have to let some of their staff go. Yet, companies' response to the pandemic in this regard varies significantly by region. As you show in figure 6 here on the screen, companies in the US, for example, were the least likely to have reduced the size of their staff, followed by China and India. Those in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, the United Emirates, were most likely to have reduced their staff as well. But it is also affected not only employment, but also the compensation of those still employed. Most survey respondents have had a reduction in their compensation this year, whether in salary, bonus, or both. Yet, similar to the situation regarding employment, the impact of the pandemic on compensation varied significantly by country. For example, in the US, companies were least likely to change the amount paid to employees. Chinese companies, however, on the other hand, were most likely to leave salaries unchanged but reduce the amount of bonus paid. And this reflects the greater use of variable compensation in China than in the US. And finally, companies, for example, in the Middle East, were most likely to cut the salaries of their employees. So, while the compensation of all age groups has been impacted, those aged 60 and older were least affected, reflecting their more senior positions in their organizations. So the effect of the whole corona pandemic has been felt at all levels of the finance organization, with the impact on compensation and employment being very consistent across all management levels. As noted earlier, the impact of the pandemic has varied widely by industry, and many industries shut down completely at first and are only now beginning to reopen, while others remained open and were only slightly impacted. And this varying impact can be seen in the change in the respondents' compensation since the pandemic began. Hardest hit are professionals in tourism, travel, and the hospitality industry. 13% of respondents in that category were furloughed. Almost 60% had their pay cut. Also relatively hard hit were professionals in the government, not-for-profit, and education areas, with 5% and 52% experienced a decrease in salary. Relatively least affected were those working for companies in accounting. And I assume many accountants are here, so that's good news for you. In the Q&A section, I see a few questions related to the CMA program and also to the EMEA recruitment partnership we have. I will cover them during the Q&A section at the end of this presentation. It's a very good question, so thanks. So what are the priorities of the finance functions? So what we have seen is the pandemic has presented businesses with unprecedented challenges and has posed new demands on the finance function. Where is finance focusing now? As might be expected, the largest increase in emphasis is seen in risk management, with nearly half of the companies spending more or much more time in this area. This followed by cash forecasting, management. On the other hand, less time is being spent on business partnering and decision support now, with almost 34% of companies spending less time in this area. While this latter responsibility of finance is really important, the reduced time spent on business partnering is understandable given the reduction in staffing at many companies and the need to devote more time to cash management, risk management, while continuing mandatory functions such as statutory reporting. While there was a great deal of consistency across industries regarding the changing priorities of the finance function, several outliers stand out. One of these is the tourism, travel, and hospitality industry, where nearly half of the respondents indicate their finance function is spending less time on business partnering and decision support. And this reflects how hard this industry has been hit by the pandemic, with companies reducing staff to stay in business and their need to focus on business essentials. So what are the personal challenges for finance? So, of course, this whole situation is extremely tough, and taking precautions to reduce its spread, such as social distancing, is critical. So many organizations, often due to legal requirements, are facing the challenge of employees working from home. In this regard, the pandemic has brought new personal challenges to forefront for finance. Key among these, enabling staff to work from home, that's 40% of the respondents, and providing a safe environment, also again 40% of the respondents, for those who need to come to the workplace. And related to the first challenge is the need to train staff on the tools that enable them to work from home. So of course, it doesn't need to take a pandemic to interest finance professionals in upskilling. 80% of the respondents were already interested in upskilling or reskilling prior to the pandemic. There's a significant concern among survey respondents as to whether their current professional skills will still be relevant in the post-COVID-19 era. 12% believe their skills will not be relevant, and another 10% are unsure. And again, results vary by country. Younger respondents were more likely to believe their skills would not be relevant post-pandemic compared to the older respondents. In contrast to the other age groups, and a bit surprisingly actually, older respondents older than 60 believed their skills would remain relevant. And this could reflect the more senior positions of the people in this group, where soft skills become increasingly important and hard skills less so. Respondents at smaller companies, fewer than 100 employees, were also more concerned about their skill than those working for larger organizations. This way reflects the fewer resources available to employees at these smaller companies to develop and maintain their skills. And the current high levels of unemployment globally have caused finance professionals to be more interested in gaining new skills. Almost 70% of the respondents indicated they were more interested in upskilling because of the whole situation. And this percentage was greatest in, for example, China and the US, and also in Europe it's quite high, almost the same level. So what we see is that the current high levels of unemployment globally have caused finance professionals to be more critical in gaining new skills. And I think that's really important because, of course, the whole situation is accelerating the need for new technology skills and also for soft skills. But actually, this interest in upskilling was not merely aspirational. 75% of survey respondents are working on improving their job skills during the current pandemic. While the majority of respondents in every country in this case study are improving their skills. The percentage was actually the greatest in, again, China and India, and the lowest in the US and also here in Europe. But there is a belief across all the regions that upskilling can help career advancement. And this was also true across all levels of management in the finance function. So the belief is also widely held among most age groups, only declining for those in their 60s and older. It reaches its peak with those ages 30 to 39, and perhaps that's because many of them have been out of school for some time and are at the stage in their career where they are looking for career advancement and are thus feeling the need to refresh their skills. So what are the skills needed post-COVID? A good number of professionals in finance are concerned about maintaining or enhancing their skills in this challenging business environment like I discussed. So what skills have they been working on, perhaps during their stay at home or period? Leading the list is cost management control, yet perhaps more interesting is the wide range of knowledge domains in which respondents have improved and plan to improve their skills. More than 80% of respondents have improved or plan to improve in each of the skills listed, with the only exceptions being tax planning. And these various skills are all part of what we already discussed, the CMA, the Certified Management Accountant program, which comprehensively covers the skills needed by management accountants today. But there was also a high degree of agreement with this belief across all gender. Although women, 82%, were slightly more likely than men, 78%, to see upskilling as helping to advance their career. It has been widely reported by withIMA and by others that the digital transformation of the finance function will change the role played by finance. The jobs in the finance function and the skills needed by those in the finance function. But how does the perceived impact of COVID-19 compare to the impact of digital transformation? Well, 58% of respondents believe the pandemic will be as disruptive when it comes to job skills. The level of agreement was greatest in Asia, where 70% fully agreed. And this may be surprising given the large IT infrastructure within the country, but may reflect the extent of the pandemic there. So what can the employer do to support for upskilling and reskilling? And then I have a few slides to go before I conclude, and then I will also jump to the questions in the Q&A section. So employees may want to upskill, but it is not enough in these challenging times. They also need the financial resources required to do so. So fully 72% of respondents believed companies should financially support upskilling of their employees. And this was consistent across all the countries in this study. So to summarize it, the whole pandemic is presenting business with a challenging not seen in recent times. The impact has been global, affecting every country and organizations of all sizes. And many finance functions have reduced the size of their staff or reduced the staff compensation. The current economic environment is presenting challenges to finance functions on several levels. It is necessitating a shift in priorities with increased emphasis on risk management and cash forecasting and management. It is also requiring great attention to enabling staff to work from home and eventually return to the office safely. Yet, with the recent developments of vaccines, the business environment will soon change again, and companies need to consider how they will compete in the new normal. And finance must again focus on partnering with others in the organization to develop and implement effective business models and strategies. So many finance professionals have concerns about the evolving skill set needed in a post-pandemic world, and most are working to improve their skills in a wide range of topics. One thing is clear: the field of finance is changing faster than ever, and finance professionals must work to enhance their skills in order to maintain and advance their career. There is no room anymore for people who are not developing their skill set. I will now go to the Q&A section, but also later on, if you have any questions, maybe after this presentation, next week or tomorrow, always feel free to send me an email. You can get me on email@imanet.org, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Here you see the code to connect with me, and then you can also send your question via LinkedIn. That is no problem at all. So I will now go to the questions within the Q&A section. And most of them are actually about the CMA, so I will first cover those, and if there are any other questions, then I will also cover them. And the first one, can you discuss about EMEA recruitment website that IMA has partnered with Europe for CMA professionals? So that's true indeed. We have a partnership with EMEA recruitment. So if you go to their website, you can sign up for a 3-month or 6-month a trial membership for IMA, so then you have all the benefits of being a member of IMA, and of course EMEA recruitment will also help you with jobs, etc. So just go to their website to find out more about that partnership. What is the level of acceptability in the EU for the CMA? Well, like I said, the CMA is recognized across the globe, so it's very international. And also here in Europe, there's a wide acceptance of the CMA. We have CMAs working at the larger companies. Also in Romania, we have CMAs working. Also in other countries in Europe at large companies like Philips, J&J. We have people working for Shell. So the bigger companies, we have CMA. So there's a wide acceptance of the CMA program. And we also have networks of CMAs across Europe. So you can always join a chapter and network with other CMAs. Is the CMA considered equal to a bachelor or master degree in the EU? So if you want to do the CMA, you need to have a bachelor degree first. So the question, is it a bachelor or master degree in the EU, is always a difficult question, because it's more something that people study after their graduation. So it's more business or executive education. But you need to have at least a bachelor degree in order to start studying for the CMA. Is age 50 too late to pursue the CMA? No, it's not. Typically, we see most people studying for the CMA between 30, 40, but I also see many people above 40, 50 or so who are studying for the CMA. So then it's also, of course, a very good way really to upskill, because technology is in the CMA, ethics is in the CMA, and also the finance skills and business acumen. So it's a great way to upskill also if you are above 50. And that's also something I see when I visit classes of the CMA program. How can CMA professionals benefit from the ABSL partnership with IMA? A very good question. I think the first benefit you just experienced, so that you can follow thought leadership webinars for free, but also that you learn more about the CMA program. And we also offer a discount for people who are signing up as a CMA candidate via ABSL. They can just contact our office to gain off that discount. And this was more related to the presentation. What are the biggest issues that companies see in terms of their employees working from home? How to overcome them? I think there are two important things. First, of course, is security, especially in finance, treasury. There are a lot of security issues. You want to keep oversight. So that's a big issue, but we are already in this situation for a year. So you are seeing that most companies now cover that issue. But what we also are seeing lately is the downside of working from home, and most companies struggle with that now. Is, of course, as employee, it is nice to work from home, but it's not nice to work from home always, and especially not for such a long time. And also, research from McKinsey also found out that it's not really good for the creative process and the communication process between your team members that they are all working from home. Because normally when you go to the office, then you bump into someone at the coffee machine, and then you discuss something, and then you find out a solution. Those things don't happen when you work from home. You are not going to set up calls for each question you have. And especially young people are impacted by that, because young people, they really need to discuss things with the senior team members in order to grow. And that's things companies are now struggling with. So the biggest issue at this moment is really that the working from home situation full-time is not good for the working process and the creative process. And that's also why you see many companies really sending out press releases that they will go back to the office, maybe not full-time, maybe 2 days a week or 1 day a week during the spring or the summer. Let's see, referring to the IMA partnership with EMA recruitment, can non-EU CMA candidates apply for compliance jobs across companies in the EU? Yes, that's something I see quite regularly, so that's of course possible. Yeah, that's possible. And kindly mention about the CMA partnership with the University of Bucharest. Yeah, we have a very good relationship with the University of Bucharest. So one of the things we are doing with them is, of course, thought leadership. We do presentations for them. We had one scheduled, but we couldn't do that live anymore, so we will do that soon. But we are also providing scholarships to their students, so that students, 10 students a year, can study for the CMA and earn their CMA for nothing. So they can earn it for free. And that's one of the things we're doing because we are partnering with this great university. What is the biggest challenge for finance people at the moment, and what would you advise them? I think the biggest challenge is really keeping your skills current, and that you really need to upskill. Like I mentioned, there is actually no room anymore for finance professionals who are not maintaining their skills. You really need to do, for example, a professional accreditation or continuing professional education during the year and follow courses. That you can do that via IMA or attend ABSL webinars or LinkedIn Learning, for example, but you really need to make sure that you are comfortable with technology, that you know soft skills, etc. So that's really important. I think we now covered all the questions. So like I mentioned, there's one more question. You mentioned networking. Are there any networking events planned post-pandemic in Romania? Is there a chapter? Well, we don't have a chapter in at this moment in Romania, but we are planning to organize an event in Romania, but that will be post-pandemic. So it's more likely that it's in September that we'll organize an event. But that's something we are still scheduling. So yes, it is possible indeed. And of course, you can also do a lot of virtual networking. So what we are seeing is also that that people, IMA members, are contacting other IMA members because you have access to My IMA, which is a database where you can see the contact details of all the members. So of course, that's also a great way of networking. And then I think we covered all the questions. Then I really would like to thank you for joining me and in this presentation and this webinar. I really hope that you will also follow up with the biggest takeaway is that you really have to upskill, not only for yourself, but also for maybe a team you're managing. Really make sure you upskill them as well in order to drive success of your organization. So if there are no questions anymore, then I would like to thank you all once again. And then I really hope to see you on an on-site event somewhere later this year. Thank you and bye.